What's up, it's cinemashogun here, and now Massachusetts is reporting that they are being hit by this new mystery illness from China. Some doctors are labeling it white lung pneumonia. And it's funny because a week or so ago, we had no idea that this thing existed. We had no idea that anything was going on. And then about a week ago, China announced that it was being hit by this wave of this new mystery illness, but they had it under control. They said it was just a seasonal pneumonia, nothing to worry about. That no one else, nowhere else had anything to worry about. And then within 2 or 3 days, we see them break out the hazmat suits. And then countries in Europe, European countries are starting to report that they're being hit by this same mystery illness. And they're already calling it a crisis. And I know that a lot of people still have no idea this is happening. But the government officials, they're already all over this. They're not talking about it in the open, but they're already labeling it a crisis, and they're saying they're preparing for something major, right? And now, here in America, several states, or a couple of states, are now reporting outbreaks as well. And you have to pay attention to the way they word things. You know, in Europe, they're using the word crisis a lot. Over here in America, they're using the word outbreak. And this is not how you usually respond to regular cases of pneumonia. This is not how you usually respond to a seasonal flu. So my question is, and it has been since I've started looking into this situation, why is the media reacting in the way it is? Why are we seeing them break out hazmat suits? Why are they already talking about shutting down schools in other countries? China's already shut down several. And we're looking at a situation that can quickly spiral out of control. And if you've been watching my videos, you know how quickly that could happen. Because literally a few days ago, it was, we have nothing to worry about. This is just, something that's happening in China because they loosened their beer bug restrictions and people were going back outside and stuff, and people were just falling ill a little bit, nothing to worry about. And now all of a sudden it's a crisis in Europe. Now the government of India is preparing for the worst case scenario. Now we got outbreaks in various places in America. It's something to keep an eye on, folks. That's all I am saying. But let's go ahead and see what's being reported. Massachusetts says it's being hit by a wave of a mystery illness, the same as children in Ohio and China and throughout Europe. The county said that the spike in cases meets their definition of an outbreak. The spread raises fears of an American outbreak of a disease tearing through China and now Europe. Doctors in parts of Massachusetts, I cannot say that, Massachusetts and Ohio are reporting a spike in child pneumonia cases similar to the outbreak spreading in China and parts of Europe. In Western Massachusetts, physicians are seeing a lot of cases. It has raised fears that the outbreak that has overwhelmed hospitals in China could hit the U.S. this winter. Several European countries are already battling a similar crisis. There's already an ongoing investigation underway in Ohio to find out what is triggering the wave of illness. The average age of patients is 8, though some are as young as 3 years old. There are several theories, one of which is that children's immunity has been weakened by the lockdowns, mask wearing, and school closures throughout the beer bug crisis, leaving them more vulnerable to seasonal illnesses. Now listen, folks, that makes a lot of sense. It's something that I've talked about for years, well before I even had a YouTube channel. In fact, anyone that brought this up as a possibility was labeled as crazy. If you said that, hey, maybe it's not good for these kids to be social distancing, maybe it's not good for these kids to be sheltered inside, wearing a mask 24/7, not interacting with other people or the outside world. Maybe it will weaken their immune system. These were all points that people were making, including myself, for a couple of years there, and we were shut down. We were shut down as if that was crazy, okay? But obviously, that's going to weaken a child's immune system, and it's going to set them back as far as how they develop as a human being just in general. But here's my thing. I agree that the lockdowns definitely had an effect on kids and their immune systems. But what makes sense in China does not necessarily make sense in the good old US of A. In China, they're just now relaxing some of their restrictions. They just now started opening up some of these areas and allowing kids to interact and to not wear masks. They just now started that. So to see kids getting sick over there because they have recently lifted these restrictions, that kind of makes sense, right? We can all agree. But how does that make sense for certain places in Europe? Now, in Europe, they were a little more strict than the USA in most places of Europe, but not as strict as China. And it's not like they just got off these restrictions recently over in Europe. So why are we seeing the same outbreak in Europe that we're seeing in China if, the lifting of these restrictions are on totally different timetables? You follow what I'm saying here? And then you take it to America. I mean, folks, it's 2023. It's almost 2024. Most kids in most places in America have gone kind of back to normal for a while now. Last winter, last Christmas, things were kind of normal. We saw these restrictions lifted long ago. So if there were to theoretically be an outbreak in America, we should have seen that a couple of years ago. Not now when China is seeing their outbreak, right? Does that make sense to you? The same excuses they're using in China, you can't use here. So it doesn't make sense if we're seeing this outbreak of cases in China. It doesn't make sense that we would see these same outbreaks in other places. Why are we seeing this uptick? Now, is this just being over dramatized? Because they might be choosing to weaponize this against us and craft their own narratives for whatever agenda they have up their sleeve this time? Maybe. Maybe that is the case. Maybe something else is to blame. Maybe there's something else up. All I know is using this excuse of, we just lifted restrictions, kids' immune systems are weakened. I fully believe in that theory. But if that's the case, that's something that would have affected America a couple of years ago. Yes, it would be affecting China now, but not necessarily America, not necessarily Europe. So that's something to think about, folks. That is definitely something to think about when you're watching this news story develop. because, you know, one size does not fit all, if that makes sense. You just can't use these same excuses. If this is some new mystery illness that's spreading, then we need to know, is this some type of seasonal thing? Are they over dramatizing the common cold again? Like what is really happening here? Because in my mind, you just cannot use the same excuses, because it doesn't apply for all of these different places where this thing is supposedly spreading. So who knows what's going to happen? We're just going to have to sit back and watch this thing play out. But luckily, I know that at least if you're watching my channel, you're aware of what's happening. And don't be surprised if we see something like school closures or something like that soon. I can guarantee you that various politicians are going to try to use this to implement certain mandates and stuff moving forward probably. Who knows what we'll see moving into the colder months. But for now, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. While you're down there, if you're feeling generous, you can donate to the channel directly via Cash App. I will have my Cash App in the pinned comment down below. Or you can support the channel via Super Thanks. Or, for totally free, you can support the channel by sharing this video on social media, hitting the like button, subscribing, ringing that notification bell, all of that good stuff. But anyways, I'll talk to you all very soon in the next video.